This is not a myth found in Cleopatra's tomb. She wasn't alone. In the spring of 2022, an international team of archaeologists led by Dr. Kathleen Martinez, including, myself, started digging through a sand-filled underground passage near the Temple of Taposiris Magna, about 20 miles west of Alexandria. This mysterious, lesser-known site in Egypt might have gone unnoticed, but a casual inspection of a small crack at the temple's northern base during a restoration project was about to spark a global sensation. During the second week of excavation, a strange echo detection device revealed an empty space, roughly the size of a car, hidden beneath ancient stones. The team gathered at this odd location based on ancient diagrams, where no one expected to find anything. The archaeologists removed debris centimeter by centimeter with extreme care. After 3 days, they uncovered a flat limestone surface. Another day of brushing away dirt and dust revealed a precisely cut door within the stone slab. This door had no hinges or handles, but faint lines and intricate symbols surrounded its edges. What shocked the team were the symbols. They appeared to mix Greek letters with traditional Egyptian hieroglyphs. One circular carving showed the image of a woman with a narrow nose and high forehead, resembling the face seen on coins from Cleopatra II's reign. Oh, and hit the like button and subscribe. It's free and really helps us keep making videos like this. As some team members cleaned plaster near the door, others carefully documented every detail with cameras and tablets. Within hours, preliminary images began circulating among the scientific team chats. That night, a message echoed across the camp. All operations must pause until officials from Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities arrived. The next 2 days were the tensest in the entire mission. Security guarded the dig site non-stop, and the discovery was hidden beneath thick covers. When ministry officials finally arrived, they were stunned. The door had been skillfully disguised into the wall and had never shown up on any temple plans. Its removal required precision explosive experts, no drilling or breaking allowed. Even the tiniest scratch on the ancient carvings had to be avoided. After 3 grueling hours, the door suddenly clicked and shifted slightly from the wall. Behind it was a dim, narrow corridor carved into the temple's stone. The first ones in were 2 seasoned archaeologists equipped with mini cameras and flashlights. The corridor was so tight they had to shuffle sideways to get through. The floor was caked with ancient mud, and the walls were decorated with murals painted using both Egyptian and Greek pigments. 15 minutes in, more than 15 feet deep, the corridor ended abruptly, revealing a hidden square chamber that had escaped all prior explorers. The real shock was what lay inside: scattered fragments of golden panels and a low stone sarcophagus with a lid engraved in a hybrid Greek-Egyptian script standing against the far wall. Every camera focused on the sarcophagus. Phones buzzed wildly with attempts to contact museums and universities around the globe. Then another hidden room revealed itself, concealed behind a limestone mask. Inside was an ancient stone coffin, miraculously untouched. Unlike most tombs in Egypt that get looted over the centuries, this one was sealed tight. The ceiling was damp, and a light scent of oil filled the air. Electric lights cast shadows across large stone panels lining the walls. The sleek sarcophagus dominated the space, like time had frozen in that tiny room waiting for someone to rediscover it. The team began a full photo and scan documentation, even capturing the smallest details near the coffin's edge. There were remains of a wooden box held together with golden nails. Its lid had Greek symbols and an elaborate design of silver serpents. After years of being sealed, the archaeologists gently brushed dust from the lid. Inside, they found small bones and some withered bay leaves. Hidden in the wall nearby was part of a gold-painted lotus petal wrapped in cloth. Upon inspection, the burial showed some strange differences from typical Egyptian sites. The coffin wasn't fastened with the usual pins, but tightly sealed with bronze pegs. Along the edges was an expensive sealant made from rare frankincense. The team used fine blades to extract the lid. It took nearly 4 hours to remove the final wedge. Holding their breath, the team opened the sarcophagus. Inside was the partially preserved skeleton of a mature woman thanks to the dry and unique conditions of the chamber. Thin golden bracelets lay on her arms and ankles, with designs matching jewelry from the Ptolemaic era. Her hands were placed in a complex ritual pose never seen before in Hellenistic Egyptian burials. On the inner wall of the sarcophagus, beneath a layer of alabaster, was a faded image of the same woman with the long nose. At the foot of the tomb was a small, golden mask, intricately carved with facial details. Its forehead had a blue glass cap and an engraved cobra. One archaeologist noticed a small bone box hidden under the sarcophagus. Inside were the bone fragments of a child wrapped in cloth, a tiny mirror, and several small bottles, some containing fragrant oils, others holding unknown powdered substances. Testing revealed traces of gold and rare metals in the dust lining the box walls. Near the ground on the far wall, another curious artifact was found. Some strange ash covered by a slab. 3 Greek letters and a complex scorpion-like symbol had been quickly painted using alabaster paint. When the slab was lifted, human vertebrae and teeth tumbled out, evidence of a child around 8 or 9 years old. Nearby lay a bronze amulet of the goddess Isis and several gold beads. Strikingly, all the artifacts pointed in one direction, toward the Nile Delta. This setup followed the burial traditions of Greco-Egyptian nobility, yet didn't match the usual royal tomb layouts. Another find near the main sarcophagus was a charred papyrus scroll lying off to the side. The archaeologists spent hours carefully collecting the pieces. Upon analysis, they could make out intertwined lines of Greek and Egyptian characters, with the name Cleopatra prominently written in a Hellenistic style. Burn marks from ancient ritual fires and resin stains covered the floor and walls, suggesting an elaborate burial ceremony. The team's next mission was clear. Identify the remains and uncover any link to Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. The air wasn't just thick with old incense. There was a sense that something even greater was still hidden, something that could rewrite history. Once the tomb was opened, a flicker of gold in the room's corner caught their eye. It was a decorated box with fine engravings set perfectly inside a carved wall niche. Its enamel artwork depicted small female faces. One stood out with its high forehead and familiar nose. When they compared the image to known Cleopatra-era coins, the resemblance was striking. A string of gold beads formed a perfect semicircle along the box's top edge, like it had been made with modern jewelry tools. Inside were 12 miniature amulets made of gold and glass, each engraved with the Greek name Cleopatra and a wedget, or Eye of Horus, symbol carved on the back. Nearby stood a large golden jar on a stone pedestal. A gilded serpent wrapped around its neck, and on its side, an engraved female figure wore a crown topped with a cobra. No archaeologist had ever seen a jar like this in any tomb. Inside was dried aromatic resin, layered with shimmering lapis lazuli and mica. At the base of the jar was a tiny gold ingot, shaped like a scroll. On the back of the sarcophagus, hidden under a pile of small shards, was another artifact, a glass amulet shaped like a woman's head. Around the head was a band that clearly read, in ancient Greek, Cleopatra the Divine. Her neck and lips were coated in gold, and tiny turquoise pieces formed her eyes, barely half an ounce in weight. It was seen as the peak of Egyptian craftsmanship. Behind the amulet, archaeologists found a distinct bronze ring of the Etima type, featuring a carved boat design. The inside of the ring had a well-preserved miniature carving made from layered white jade. It showed a woman with Cleopatra's exact hairstyle and jewelry, matching what appears on her silver coins during her reign. A delicate woman's finger, or perhaps a necklace piece, was found among a scattered group of dusty, ash-covered artifacts in the chamber. One of the most unusual finds was a blue glass medallion framed in gold. It clearly depicted a woman holding a papyrus scroll in one hand and a statue of the god Horus in the other. On the back, it showed a woman in a long robe seated on a throne with a small lion at her feet, a scene not found on any previously known Hellenistic Egyptian medallions. Another remarkable find was a golden hairpin decorated with a snake, symbolizing immortality and protection. The top of the pin featured an inlay of blue glass etched with Greek text. Experts recognized the text as epithets commonly associated with Cleopatra. Inside a small red agate jar, archaeologists discovered a clay seal with a rare image of a woman wearing a royal crown and holding a double scepter, with the goddess Isis beside her spreading her wings wide. These visual elements were exclusive to the elite of the Tmic dynasty. Among all the gold and gemstones, there were simpler items too. A wooden stylus wrapped in gold, a small mirror inscribed in Greek with the phrase Eternal Cleopatra, and a thin silver plate on the floor near the wall engraved with a double-headed eagle. a symbol of the Hellenistic world at the crossroads of kingdoms. The artifacts stood out not just for their craftsmanship, but for their unique cultural fusion. Egyptian motifs were seamlessly combined with Greek symbolism, and almost every object was inscribed either with Cleopatra's name or titles she used officially. The richness and luxury of these items led the excavation team to conclude that the woman buried there had extremely high social status. But, one last step was needed before drawing any final conclusions. Deciphering the inscriptions and solving the mystery of the Greek text found in an Egyptian tomb that seemed to be tied to something much deeper. There was another secret hidden here, something that contradicted everything previously known about ancient Egyptian history. This mystery, in fact, was the key that could puzzle scholars for years to come, a riddle, a code, still drawing global curiosity. At first, the team focused on the most promising clue, a charred strip of papyrus stuck between the stone coffin and its base. Carefully opened under high-powered magnifying lenses, archaeologists noticed faintly etched lines. The top section was marked with large Greek letters, but the text beneath became increasingly complex. Some characters appeared deliberately distorted or jumbled, and Egyptian hieroglyphs were mixed in, recognizable only to scholars of the Hellenistic period. The first line clearly displayed Cleopatra's name, along with royal titles used only by the last queen of Egypt. Below that was a mysterious section containing 3 unusual Greek symbols that weren't found in any known historical ciphers. Some team members managed to partially decode them. The lower part of the sarcophagus lid featured wide engravings, mostly in ancient Greek, but also containing cryptic messages. The text included small dots like numerical markers and symbolic images of lotus flowers and scorpions between the words. Only one phrase could be easily read: "Here lies the queen, daughter of the gods." Further analysis revealed another coded passage with dotted words and numbers arranged in a way that defied classical formats. The next day was spent manually transcribing each line, and images were sent to top universities across Europe and the Americas. Replies came quickly. No one had ever seen such a blend of symbols and numbers. Even veteran Greek text decoders struggled to make sense of it. In some passages, letters were repositioned within words. Hidden symbols revealed names and key clues about the woman's identity. A student from Thessaloniki recognized one particular symbol used in Alexandrian religious texts, but couldn't explain the logic behind the shifting letters and numerals. As the team continued examining the papyrus, new findings appeared on the back wall of the chamber, behind a niche that held a golden artifact. There, under a layer of old plaster, they uncovered a thin marble tablet. After careful restoration, it revealed part of a Greek inscription written in metallic pigment. The inscription had just 6 words, but their order didn't follow standard sentence structures. The last letters formed the shape of a scorpion and a lotus flower. The group spent nearly a full day analyzing both the sarcophagus engravings and the papyrus fragments. The writers of the text had clearly scrambled the sequence of letters and words, embedding at least 2 layers of encrypted characters and interchangeable numbers. Some of the lower lines on the papyrus revealed hints about finding the soul in the temple near the sun. The team believed this might point to another burial location nearby. The Greek term apotheo appeared, often linked to the deification rituals of Hellenistic rulers. That night, the team faced yet another puzzle. Hidden beneath a thin layer of alabaster in the center of the room was a second, shorter inscription carved into a flat tablet. The words were surrounded by the figure of a dark-skinned woman resembling Cleopatra. This was the first known case of such a complicated web of coded references in Egyptian inscriptions. One part of the text could only be read under specific lighting angles to decode it. Archaeologists also found an ancient golden seal in a box of amulets. One side of the seal had a series of 9 engraved Greek letters and 2 Egyptian symbols. When matched with lines on the papyrus, the text revealed that every second letter was repeated, and the symbols represented missing syllables. This rare chessboard-style cipher technique was unique to secret communications in Talmus. On the third day, experts reached a consensus. An international team would work for weeks to decode the papyrus inscriptions and wall engravings. Cryptographers, Hellenistic historians, and epigraphers took turns trying to crack the mystery. Some phrases were finally translatable. Daughter of Julia with her son, the throne is hidden from enemies, eternal remembrance. One wooden fragment displayed the name Tami, written in feminine Greek style, confirming Cleopatra as both the daughter of a pharaoh and a descendant of Alexander the Great. As the meaning of the temple inscriptions sparked debate among scholars, Egypt's Minister of Antiquities imposed strict security around the site. Meanwhile, the internet was flooded with theories about the coded message. Some suggested it was a ritual spell, others thought it outlined steps for hiding royal power. Still, no one could explain why the inscriptions were so complex, or why multiple alphabets and encryption layers were used all at once. The question remained, who created this code, and who was it meant for? In the end, unlocking these messages could very well add a new name to the historical records of great women of antiquity, and give us deep insight into the true motives and fate of Egypt's final queen. To many seasoned archaeologists, it all seemed like science fiction. But once the excitement of the discovery settled, lab teams from Europe, North America, and the Middle East began what may be the most revolutionary analysis in Egyptology. 3 days after opening the tomb, experts transferred bone and hair samples to a mobile lab stationed near the walls of Taposiris Magna. Right away, biologists were surprised by how well preserved the remains were. Skull fragments, teeth, and femur bones were barely damaged by time. Thick resin on the bones was scraped away using microscopic scalpels. The stunning discovery? The resin's upper layer, which acted like a preservative, contained rare microparticles of a sensitive compound never found in similar excavations. Experts from London and Athens arrived at the same time to collect matching samples for parallel analysis, reducing error risk. Within a week, a microscopy lab in Florence confirmed the decoded DNA belonged to a woman aged 40 to 45, with distinctive Semitic traits and refined Mediterranean features. Her eye color, based on pigment indicators, was a deep olive brown. Her hair showed traces of natural black dye with occasional hints of chestnut. The painstaking process included mitochondrial DNA analysis, not only to confirm sex and age, but also to check for genetic links between the discovered bones and known members of the TMIC lineage. By the second week, labs in Cambridge and Alexandria began comparing newly identified genetic markers with DNA from ancient mummies. Matching mitochondrial DNA markers were found in museums in London, Cairo, and Berlin, showing more than 80% similarity with remains of women from the Hellenistic royal line, especially one rare double mutation previously documented in only 2 women who had served in the court of Alexander the Great and were both recorded under the name Tami. This detail caught immediate attention. Further tests revealed an extremely rare genetic mix, typical of Greek Macedonian aristocratic women from Hellenistic Egypt. Geneticists quickly concluded that the similarities between the woman discovered and a mummy believed to be Cleopatra III exceeded 90%, based on matching skeletal markers, skull structure, and nose shape. These physical traits were a perfect match with Cleopatra's depictions on coins and statues, which are known for a long chin, high forehead, and distinct nose curve. To verify these results, DNA testing was also conducted on the remains of a child found in a hidden chamber. The genetic markers along the maternal line were a perfect match, confirming that the child was directly descended from the main burial figure. The mystery deepened with the discovery of a third, partially preserved skeleton, which indicated origins from the Mediterranean and Middle East. The remains found at the Taposiris Magna temple belonged to a woman from the TMIC dynasty, whose DNA types matched those of known descendants of Cleopatra II. The key confirmation came from a detailed comparison of teeth and hair. Isotope analysis showed that the woman had lived most of her life in northwestern Egypt, near Alexandria. Traces of tetraic lineage and fine elements in her tooth enamel matched the diet typical of Hellenistic elites. With this compelling evidence, the international research team officially added the Taposiris Magna remains to the record of ancient royal figures for the first time. As soon as the findings were presented to the public, global headlines exploded, announcing what appeared to be the discovery of direct descendants of Queen Cleopatra. Scientists held a press conference at the excavation site, showing genetic data and images to support that the DNA from the bones matched unique mutations in the TMIC Hellenistic bloodline. It also aligned with data from mummies previously found in Alexandria and Memphis. Following this revelation, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities closed public access to the temple. The DNA samples were transferred to the National Archives in Cairo for preservation. Despite needing an official confirmation through inscriptions, the scientific community was now largely convinced that the genetic remains belonged to Cleopatra, the last queen of the Taposiris dynasty. This archaeological breakthrough sparked both excitement and controversy. Skeptics called for deeper investigation, while enthusiastic supporters imagined this as the beginning of uncovering more secrets about one of the most iconic women of the ancient world. Since then, all attention has been focused on the Taposiris Magna temple, which continues to guard its mysteries within its stone walls. Once news of the discovery spread beyond the excavation camp, the debate moved onto the global stage, into academic journals and science labs worldwide. Even before the first photos of the sarcophagus and artifacts had fully circulated online, top Egyptologists were already expressing conflicting views. Supporters of the discovery quickly hailed it as the archaeological find of the century, calling for updates to school textbooks and pushing major universities in London, New York and Athens to organize online tours and educational reforms. On the other hand, critics accused the team of seeking fame and called